G'day guys, thanks for joining the webinar this afternoon. You've joined a webinar about Jamboard and how we can use this in both the meeting space and the educational space for remote meetings or distance education. This webinar is going to have a level of assumed knowledge. It's not an intro to Jamboard by any means. So if you're new to Jamboard and you want some more information, we can hold a separate training session for that as like a 101 for Jamboard as well. But this afternoon, I just want to run through sort of how to save your jam, a couple of the cool tools you can see there on the sidebar. And then we'll be having a look at the full screen Meet option from Google as well, and how that incorporates into the Jamboard. And towards the end, we'll have some sort of frequently asked questions and running through those sort of on the hot topics that come up when we discuss Jamboard. And we've also got an insight into the next update, which will hit the Jamboard next week. And there's some new upgrades to the web-based version of the Jamboard, and also the kiosk version, or the actual hardware version of the Jamboard as well. And there's a couple of exciting changes there, and we'll run through those towards the end. There is a Q&A section there, so if you do have any questions, you're welcome to feed those through as we go along. But first and foremost, I might just jump straight in. Obviously, we've got a jam running at the moment, and the first thing I want to bring to your attention is down the bottom left-hand corner, and I'm aware the quality of our camera here isn't great, so just bear with me and I'll try and verbalize what I'm talking about and what I'm saying as best as I can. But down in the bottom left-hand corner, when you first jump into a jam, there's an option there to save this. And the way you're able to save this is to log in with your G Suite account. So obviously it's a Google product and it relies on that G Suite integration. And so I've already saved this, and I'm going to bounce up to my top menu here in the top corner. And I can see here that this is now named my own jam, so Jai's Jam. And I'm able to see other participants here who joined that jam session. And so obviously you can join from another Jamboard, an actual kiosk or hardware version of the Jamboard, but you can also join this jam session from your own personal device, whether that's a Mac or a Windows computer, whether it's a tablet or a mobile phone, either iOS or Android. So there's a whole bunch of different ways you can jump in and collaborate utilizing this device as the host device there. And I'd be able to see all those attendees straight along here. Obviously, it's just myself and the Jamboard itself. And I can add people here, so I can manually type in their email address here and get them to join. If they're on the same domain as me, I can actually utilize what's called a jam code and get them to join via that code. Or if everyone is in the room there with me, so they're not remotely viewing the Jamboard session, they can actually connect via Bluetooth to the panel here as well, which is really handy. Moving down and moving along to some of these cool features, like I mentioned, I'm not going to go through all of these features. And the first thing I might do is just start a new page here. I'm not going to mention all of these features, but I'll run through some of the basics really quick. So first and foremost, we have our annotation tool or annotation menu here. And we have a couple of different colors we can use and a couple of different pen styles. And straight away, we can pick up and start annotating and start collaborating straight away there. But some of the really cool tools that are available on the Jamboard specifically are what we call assistive drawing tools. And what these allow you to do essentially is be able to either use handwriting recognition, shape recognition, or also auto draw. So auto draw is something that a lot of people are familiar with too, and I'll just show you these really quickly. So I can select the handwriting recognition tool, and then I can just start scrolling here. And obviously you need an internet connection here for this to be able to work. But you can see there, it's just digitized my handwriting, and then that just becomes a movable image. So I can move around the screen and zoom in on or enlarge and shrink just by using pinching gestures as well. If I decide I don't want this text, I can always just throw it down into the bin there at the base of the screen too and continue on with my brainstorming session or my collaboration. The second tool I wanted to show you is what we call shape recognition. And what this allows us to do is essentially just draw shapes here, and this will digitize those into the shapes that it recognizes. And then I can actually link these shapes as well. So this is really great for brainstorming or flowcharts and that kind of thing too. The third assistive drawing tool I want to talk about is auto draw. You can see down at the bottom, I have another toolbar here. And now if I just start drawing, and I'm just going to draw a really bad snowman here. If I start drawing, the board is going to try and understand what I'm actually drawing there. You can see down the base there, it might be a little bit hard to see, but it gives me a whole bunch of different drawings and objects that it thinks I'm trying to annotate on the screen. And so I mentioned before, I'm using a snowman, and so I can simply select that and digitize that, and that becomes its own image that I can manipulate going forward from there. So there's three really handy tools to get you up and running, whether you're teaching in the classroom or you're in a meeting space and you're trying to collaborate remotely with people. Moving down the list here away from assistive drawing tools or annotation tools, we have a generic eraser. So there's three ways you can erase. I can use finger eraser, just like I would on a traditional whiteboard. It does come with a solid eraser you can use, like a traditional whiteboard eraser as well. Or I can actually clear the whole entire frame here with an option down the base there in the bottom left-hand corner. Simple selection tool to select different objects on the screen. They've also digitized the post-it note, and so I can just type in simple messages here and select the color and enter those onto the board. They become their own images that I can manipulate, resize, or retextualize as well. Moving down from there, we do have a little image icon, and this allows you to do a couple of different things. We can simply search using Google image search, and these are all images that are readily available. So if I'm a dog person, I just want to search for dogs, I can just have a quick search here, and then this will just bring back a whole bunch of different images based on my search criteria, and I can just simply add these to the panel as well and use those during my presentation or my collaboration there as well. We have a quick web search here as well. So this just uses Google's own search engine, obviously, and I can type in here. It carries over from what I just image search there, but it just uses a normal Google browser search there as well. And then there's little stickers or emojis that we can use to help us out when we're brainstorming or collaborating there as well. And we can just simply add these to different objects around our panel, those and resize those and duplicate those as well. Finally, on this little side panel here, we do have what we call, it's like a magic marker or a laser pointer. And so I'm able to point out certain objects during my presentation or collaboration just to bring attention to those momentarily. It's a really nifty tool for that. Moving down, we have back buttons or redo or undo buttons there as well. So if I've made a mistake or I make a mistake making a mistake, I can undo and redo that as we see fit. Next up, I just want to talk about being able to Next up, I just want to talk about the meeting space here as well. So we might just jump into a Google Meet session. All right, so Google Meets. I'm going to bounce over here. So you saw that there's a little Google Meet icon in the top right-hand corner, and I've just pressed on that, and it gives me an opportunity to either join or start a meeting. So if I just hit on the icon there, I can either punch in a meeting code straight away, or I can actually just start a new meeting and generate my own meeting code. So for today, I'm just going to start my own meeting by pressing the Go button there. And this will give me the option to share a meeting code, and that just pops up on screen there as well. Yeah, of course you're on camera. All right. So I'm just going to hit that box, and Dan's just going to join this meeting for us. Yep. You'll notice the code actually appears up in the top left-hand corner there as well. OAO-CSG-NWN. So Dan's just going to join this on his mobile phone. Obviously, like any meeting, you're able to join on a multitude of devices. So whether that's your PC, laptop or otherwise, mobile phone or tablet as well.
Sorry, Joe, I'm stopping that in now. NWN.
NWN.
Oh, sorry, I don't know what's happening.
All right.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of issue.
That's right. While Dan's joining there, guys, I just want to show you something as well. So on the left-hand side of the screen, I can actually press the tap to draw option. And so I can continue to use my Jamboard whilst people are joining this session as well. The other thing I can do is actually present this jam. And so there's an icon just in the left-hand corner there. You'll see that sub-menu on the right-hand side. And there's an option there to tap to present this jam. And once we hit that, anyone who's joined that meeting can actually see this jam session in real time. Obviously, if they're just jumping into the meeting app, they'll only be able to view it. They won't be able to collaborate there as well.
All right, Joe, I
And
managed
then
to
I
get
can
in.
see you there. So I'm just going to mute Dan. And once Dan gets his volume under control, you'll be able to see him there. So the other thing we can do here is now I'm going to present this jam, and this will appear on Dan's own device as well. All right. So really easy to do that kind of thing. He'll be able to see that on his own device. His camera will still operate as well as the camera on the Jamboard as well. So that's good. Thank you for that, Dan. And then when we tap to stop presenting that, it'll just go back to a normal scenario where people will be able to see each other in that meeting space as well. All right. I can also minimize that so it's out of the way, so that panel is out of the way, minimize to the side there, and I can continue to use my jam session there as well. All right, that's all right. I'm just going to end that call now. It's going to give me an option to ask how the quality of that call was. And obviously with the Jamboard, we have a built-in camera there as well, which is a 720p camera. You can add your own camera via the USB port. So if you have an existing solution, an existing camera, you can add that as well and utilize that for a better picture and better audio quality too. All right, moving along, I might jump over to my app on the iPad just to give you guys a rundown of how that works and some of the cool features that we can use an external device for when talking about Jamboard. So let me just jump over to that real quick, and I'll just share my device.
That's working all good.
Beautiful. So I'm just on my iPad here, guys, and mind all my apps, but I'm just going to jump into my Jamboard app that you can see here. And so once I bounce into that, I've obviously logged in with my account previously here, which is my G Suite account. And straight away, you can see a gallery, if you like, of all the different jams I've had previously. If you remember at the start of the session, I mentioned that we need to save the jam session to save that work. And this is where the Jamboard really excels and is different to a conventional whiteboard. Previously, we'd have people walk into meeting spaces or in the classroom and you use a traditional whiteboard and people would stick physical sticky notes on it. And then the whole workflow of that was to have people pull out their mobile phones and take photos of that. And that was supposed to be some really nifty way of saving your work and being able to review what had happened in that meeting or in that class. Now we can save this as a jam file, and it saves directly back into your Jamboard app, but also into your Google Drive. So when I signed in with my G Suite account, it's automatically saving in real time. I don't have to hit the save button. Once I log in, that jam is mine, and any edits that are made to that jam file will save back to my Google Drive there. And then I can access these later on, not just on the Jamboard itself, but on my own personalized device there as well. So we can see a whole bunch of different jams there. You can see in the top corner here, I'm just going to select this one. And this was our original jam that you guys saw when we first started the session there as well. And I can see any edits made to that. So if I go to the second page there, we can see everything that I added there previously. And this is all from the app, which is a free app on your own device. So the app itself is available on iOS and Android devices. And you can also access this via your Chrome browser as well. So you can just jump to the jamboard.google.com website, log in with your account and access these jam sessions there as well. So it doesn't matter what device you've got, as long as you have a browser there, you can access that website. I'm just going to bounce back here. And there's a couple of things I wanted to show you, rather than just having a look at existing jams. If we jump up into the top left corner here where the menu button is, obviously I can see the account that's logged in there, but there's a couple of things I want to point out. One thing we went through previously was adding content to that jam session. I went over that really quickly. Like I said, there's a level of assumed knowledge here, but we were able to add images and we could add content from our browser and that kind of thing. But what happens if I have content on my Google Drive that I want to add to this jam session? And even though I've logged in with my account, and when I say I logged in, I literally just typed in my email address. There was no password or anything like that I actually signed into the account. It was simply just linking my own email address, which was my G Suite account. And because a Jamboard kiosk, the hardware version of Jamboard, is a public display device, Google were very wary about allowing people to log into that device and then forgetting to log out. And so what would happen is someone would log into the panel and walk away and forget their whole account was logged into that, including any contents on their Google Drive. So what they did is come up with a method of being able to add your own content from your Google Drive, but without having to sign into the board. And so we're able to do that through the app itself. So I'm just on my iPad, and you'll notice there's an option here to connect to Jamboard. It's about halfway down the page there. I'm just going to tap on that now. And this will bring up an option, and we'll start searching for Jamboards within range just via Bluetooth. And so it's picked up our Jamboard here. So I'm just going to select that. And then it's just going to state that we're opening a jam here. And then on the Jamboard itself, it'll actually show that we're joined there as well. Now, what this will allow me to do, and then what I'll get you to do is just spotlight back there. I'm going to stop sharing really quickly in a second. But what this will allow me to do is obviously see what's on our panel. And what I want to show you is that I can hit the little plus symbol here on my left side taskbar there. And what this allows me to do is actually add my own content from my own personal device. So that could be images or images from a photo library, or I could take a photo in real time and add that. But the one I want to concentrate on is this Drive content here. And so if I select Drive content, this is going to open up my own Google Drive, obviously, and I'm just able to scroll down and see my whole entire drive. I'm going to jump into a folder here. And this will have a couple of documents that I want to add to this jam session. So I might take this first PDF, for instance, and that's going to pop up and you can see it there. And remembering, we're still looking at my iPad here. And then I might want to add something else from that drive. So I might want to add a slide deck, for instance. And so I'll pop that up there. And what I'm going to do now is actually stop sharing my iPad. And we're going to bounce back to the camera and have a look at our BenQ panel there as well. So let me just stop sharing here. Now you guys should be able to see that camera straight away. And if I bounce back to the first page, you'll see those two files that I added previously here. So this is just a PDF. And if I double tap on this, it will expand that PDF. And then from there, I can actually take individual pages out of this PDF file. I can scroll up and down through this as well. And so once I've selected the pages I want from that PDF, I can simply hit the cross there. The folder or the file is still there, but then I can just bin that once I'm done. And those pages I extracted remain on the Jamboard. I can resize those, and these just become static images. You'll remember that I also incorporated a Google deck as well, like a slide deck. And so what I'm able to do here is select this slide deck. Let me just unselect it from here, sorry, 2 seconds. So what I'm able to do is select this slide deck, double tap on that once again, and then it has all my images from that slide. So I can just pull these out as well. And you saw I did that initially also. And I can resize those and annotate over the top of those as well. So it's a really easy way to get your own contents from your own personal device back onto the actual Jamboard itself and continue to collaborate in that sense. I'm going to bounce back to my tablet now that we've had a look at that. So just bear with me. I'll just share my iPad screen again. So that's one way we can get our content up onto that panel straight away. I'm going to jump back into my Jamboard app here. So once again, we're looking at my iPad and we can see sort of some of those changes that I made, and this will reload and recontextualize in a minute. But the other thing I wanted to point out, and we spoke about this briefly, is if I sort of go back here, and I can see all my past jams and I can see any edits that I've made in real time. But if I walk into a meeting space or a classroom and I've been working on content on my iPad version of the Jamboard app, and then I want to push that to the panel so all the people in that meeting space or all the kids in that classroom can actually see what I've been working on. And so we can actually push these jam sessions from our apps or from our tablets or mobile phones and push those back to the actual Jamboard itself. And so if I select this second one here, why Jamboard, I can see a really colorful piece of work, and I want to push this to the Jamboard itself. Up in the top right corner here, you'll notice a little TV screen with an arrow. And this is being able to push this or open this up on a Jamboard itself. And once again, I'll search for a Jamboard within range and it'll pop up with our Jamboard. And when I select that, that's actually going to open up on our panel. And it's going to give me a little option here. Just bear with me, I'm going to stop sharing really quickly. I can just open that on the Jamboard itself. And so it just gives me a little dialog box saying, hey, someone's trying to open a jam. You can admit or deny there. And then the jam that was just on my iPad is now on the Jamboard itself. And I can continue to edit that and work on that as well. Remembering that all of this is saving directly back to my Google Drive. And once again, if I make amendments to this and I walk away and log out of the board, later that night, I can continue my work on my own personal device and edit that jam. So it's really easy to take your work with you mobilely and being able to contribute and add to that remotely as well. Obviously, at the moment, we're dealing with this ongoing pandemic. And so this is a really useful tool for people who are working remotely, who are sort of displaced from being in the office, or even for kids for distance learning, still being able to collaborate and contribute with their teachers and fellow students as well. So that's just a really brief overview of how sort of intuitive and how efficient the Jamboard could be in both of those scenarios. You're not sort of anchored to that physical hardware like you have been in the past with traditional whiteboards. And it gives you real flexibility in being able to design your own content and have that set up prior to your meeting or prior to your lesson planning as well. All right, I think that's all I really want to show with the app there. It's pretty straightforward. I just wanted to bounce into that because there's sometimes a bit of a disconnect between what Jamboard actually is and how that relates back to real world situations there too. We might move on to talking about what's next for Jamboard, Dan. So I might just bring that up real quick. Let me just get this sorted for you guys. Won't be a second. I'm just going to stop sharing here briefly.
And as Joe mentioned, that this is some sort of exclusive update sort of information that we have for you guys. So we can't let this out publicly yet, but we thought we'd share it with you guys as a little special treat. So Joe's got a couple of videos there.
Yeah, so I'll just run through some of the cool new features. So these are actually coming out in an update that's scheduled for next week. So it's not too far away. The first two updates are related to the web-based version, so the browser-based version of Jamboard. And the last feature we'll run through is based on all versions of Jamboard. So the Jamboard app, the Jamboard hardware, the kiosk itself, and also the web-based version. So the first one is text boxes for the web-based version. So this has been something that has sort of been in the works for a little while and has been quite requested here. So initially on the web-based version, we couldn't actually insert a simple text box like we can in any other document that we use with a G Suite application. So yeah, this is just a really welcome change, make it really easy to be able to sort of text and collaborate in that sense. And once again, it has the normal features and that you'd expect from a simple text box in like a Word document or like a Google Sheets document or something like that as well. So a really cool feature. The next one I want to point out is one's called Web Shapes. So once again, this is about the browser-based version. I'm just going to enlarge this video here. And this is just about simple shape drawing as well. So I sort of showed you guys shape recognition on the Jamboard hardware earlier, and this is sort of carrying that across. Although these are pre-designed shapes, we can obviously sort of change the size of these and the orientation, but this just makes it really easy if we're sort of doing flowcharts on the fly. As well, and being able to really get across the point we're trying to make with any information we're collaborating or brainstorming with as well. It's a really simple feature, and it's a really welcome change to the existing web-based app there. You can also see with this shape tool that you can actually fill in those shapes as well with different colors. And then last but not least, we're talking about Z order controls or Z order controls. And so this is all about where images or texts sit within your presentation or your brainstorming session. And this will make more sense when I play through the video here. But in the past with Jamboard, there's been a bit of a struggle with having different images or different texts layered on top of each other or stacked on top of each other. And being able to access those if they disappear behind different objects and really trying to get that layering down pat. And there was really no rhyme or reason to how this kind of scenario would play out. So it was quite a frustrating experience. But what you'll notice now with these menus is that we can select that object, go into the little side menu there, the 3-dot menu, and actually change the order of those and bring those forward or send them back or change where they sit within that sort of layering of those objects as well. So it seems like such a simple thing, but it was a long time coming, and it's a really welcome change. And this feature in particular is rolling out across both the Jamboard kiosk, which is the hardware, and also the mobile app, so on Android and iOS devices as well. So that'll solve a lot of headaches with trying to order those objects and layer those properly and accordingly there as well. All right, I'm going to stop sharing there really quick, guys. And then,
so if you want to bring up the PowerPoint, Joey, that you've got open.
Yeah, so let's have a quick look at that as well, and we'll have a look at some Q&A really quick.
So obviously we've run through a lot of these features quite quickly, Joey, and like we said, there's super quickly, and there's so much more to Jamboard and what Jamboard is all about. But we wanted to give you guys the opportunity to throw any questions down in the Q&A. We're going to do our best to answer that. But what we've put together is just a few sort of frequently asked questions about Jamboard that are asked quite often, and we want to sort of shed some light on those ones and sort of see how things go from there, Joey.
Cool. Yeah. So let's have a look at the first one here. So during a meeting, can my colleagues see my whiteboard and my webcam at the same time? We demonstrated this really poorly before.
Very poorly, and that's my fault. My phone was playing up a little bit, so my apologies for that.
But the simple answer to this is that yes, you can. So you'll be able to see the whiteboard. Like I mentioned before, there is that feature in that full screen meet to be able to share the jam session at the same time, and people will still be able to see all their colleagues as long as they have their cameras active as well. And you can obviously alter that depending on the app you're using, and being able to mute yourself or choose to show the video component of that meeting space as well. But the simple answer to this is yes, definitely you can with the full screen meet.
Staying on that one, Joe. So when using the webcam, that could be the webcam on the Jamboard hardware, could be the webcam on a laptop when using browser version of Meet, or the app on the phone.
Absolutely, 100%. No dramas there at all. All right, next up. Can I add other apps and files to Jamboard like Zoom, Teams, Microsoft Office files, etc.? Okay, so this is an interesting one. The Jamboard is part of the G Suite portfolio, so it does rely purely on G Suite applications. So because of that, apps like Zoom or Teams can't be side-loaded onto the Jamboard. It utilizes and relies purely on Google Meet to be able to perform to VC out to participants there as well. As far as Microsoft Office files goes, yeah, I mean, you can add those and they generally convert back to the G Suite type of file, right? So it'll just I won't say re-render, but rename those to the G Suite equivalent. So if you have a Google Doc file, a Microsoft Word file, for instance, it'll transfer that into a Google Doc file, and you'll be able to put that up onto the panel. The same with slides and PowerPoint, etc., etc. Obviously, PDF documents, you saw me use those before, and then because they're a universal file format, you're able to push those straight to the panel itself. All right, can all employees in my office use the Jamboard? Sure, they can. So there's a couple of ways they can do this. If they don't have a G Suite account, it just means they won't be able to technically save the jam. Now, this becomes a little bit convoluted, a little bit complex. They can still use the Jamboard without saving the jam. It kind of just becomes a traditional whiteboard in that sense, right? They can't save it to their Google Drive. They don't have a G Suite account, and they won't be able to re-access any of the work they've done on that jam session. Now, having said that, if someone logs into the Jamboard with a G Suite account, those people without G Suite accounts can still join that jam session on their own device, and then they'll actually have a copy of that on their own personal device as well. So there's a couple of I won't say loopholes, but there's a couple of ways that people who don't have a G Suite account can still get their hands on the jam session itself. But the board itself will need a G Suite account attached to it to be able to save that jam initially.
Just an extension on that, Jai, kiosk mode.
Yeah, so that's another way. So we didn't speak too much about kiosk mode, but that's a way that you can just save without having a G Suite account, just using typical Google accounts there, like Gmail for that instance. All right. Can I book a Jamboard prior to a meeting? Yes, so Jamboard is integrated into Google Calendar, so you can actually book it as a resource within your calendar. So as long as that's set up properly, then yeah, you can book that, and that's just an organizational G Suite thing that you would have to set up on your end to be able to do that. Jamboard compatibility. I've mentioned this a lot already. So like it mentions there, Android, iOS, Mac, Windows, Chrome OS. Windows, Mac use a browser, obviously. Depending on the Chrome laptop that you're using, if it has access to the Google Play Store, then you'll be able to download the app for Chrome OS. Otherwise, you would just use the browser like Windows and Mac. Obviously, in the iOS store or the Google Play Store for Android, you can download the app directly to your device there. All you have to do is search Jamboard within those respective stores. Do I need to buy a Jamboard to use the Jamboard app? No, you don't. The Jamboard app is actually free of charge, and it lives both in those stores, like I mentioned before, iOS and Google Play. So you're welcome to download that on your device straight away. If you're using a laptop, you can just jump into the web-based version, which is jamboard.google.com, and that'll take you straight there. You just need to sign in with your Google account, and you can start utilizing those apps or that service via the web browser there straight away.
Before we move on, Joe, it might be worth announcing that the functionality of the Jamboard and the Jamboard app are slightly different. So you won't get the full Jamboard hardware experience on the app.
Yeah, so obviously in the app, they don't have, well, the first big difference is they don't have the full screen Meet feature built into the Jamboard app on iOS devices or Android devices, or in the web browser for that matter, and you would just open those up within their own applications. So that's one of the big ones. A lot of the features have crossed over now, but there are slight differences there between the app-based version, the version you find on the kiosk itself. All right. Implementing the Jamboard into your meeting space.
So here, this is where I might share my screen, John, to show. It will show the website that we were talking about. So this one here.
So this is in regard to the meeting space, guys?
Yes. So there's a really good web page that helps you to sort of lay out a room around your Jamboard hardware and how best to set that up based on the room that you need it in. So we've got the Jamzone here, Meet on Jam, which is talking about your meetings between however many people that you have in the room. And if you go down further on this list, there's a little bit about Meetup hardware. There's also the Jamboard camera, how far that can reach, and then obviously adding something like a third party or a different type of hardware to use that VC feature.
Cool, yeah, so it is a really good resource there. So if you're either planning out a meeting space or a classroom space, or if you're one of our partners and you're trying to help someone out with that situation or that sort of proposal that they're looking for, then that's a really great resource to understand sort of spacing in that room and what options you have in regard to the VC option.
So Jai, I'll drop that link into the comments of the webinar just now. Another thing I want to point out while I'm sharing my screen here is the Jamboard website. So there's a lot of great sort of resources and stuff like that based on Jamboard and its features. Also a lot of case studies as well. So you can head on over there to the Australian version of this website. Also, if you want to get in touch with us about anything to do with Jamboard, you can use the contact us form here, ask a question, or just contact us directly at bqauservice@benq.com.
Cool. All right. I'm just going to jump back really quickly here. Thanks, Dan. All right. just jump back into here. All right, so that was how we implement the Jamboard into a meeting space there. So really good document to have a look at and really great resource. And that's the end of our frequently asked questions.
Right.
So pretty straightforward.
So we haven't had any questions come through, John. So it looks like we've covered a lot of them throughout the session.
It was a real blitz through a lot of that content today, guys. We did try to keep it to half an hour. We're a little bit over now, unfortunately. But like I mentioned at the start of the session, if you do have any questions, whether you want further training on it or there's something specific that you have in mind and you want to know whether the Jamboard will fit that kind of proposal, please feel free to reach out for us. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate that. Very direct. Yes, that's how I am, mate. Get straight to the point. But yeah, please feel free to reach out to us. Like Dan mentioned, you can contact us through the website directly, or if you're familiar with your BenQ representative, please feel free to reach out to them and we can point you in the right direction for any further information or training there as well. Dan's just posted that link in the chat there.
I'll put the other one as well.
And you'll be able to access those resources or that contact information directly through those links in there now. But thank you so much for joining, guys. I really appreciate your time. And like I mentioned before, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any further questions. And we're more than happy to help you out moving forward.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys, and have a great day. Cheers.